faculty as well as the audience. I am Srividya, your MC for today, and it is truly an honor to be here with all of you. Without any further ado, let the panel discussion commence.
Let me start with asking you, how many of you want to start up on your own at the end of your course? So, with that, I think it's a very small community, as you see, right? Most of you want to have the comfort of a job at the end of this. But what you don't realize is, with the increasing population and the country trying to become a bigger economy, it's not going to happen with job seekers. It can only happen with job providers. And we need more job providers. So we need more people to take risks. Although it sounds stupid to take risks, but we need more risk-taking people, right? Okay, so with that, let me start this discussion by requesting the panelists to give a short introduction beyond what was already said, any points that we missed out, any highlights, and maybe a few initial comments about what do they see about the current startup ecosystem, right? In whichever form. He's from Mysore, which is a vibrant startup ecosystem. Bhaskar has been an entrepreneur in the US and in India. So what he sees there and so on, right? So let's hear some introductory remarks. I think you guys can use it. Pramod, you want to start this?
Hopefully it's not something that you'll sleep over. A little bit of, let me give some, a few things that it'll keep you awake. You must have read in the newspaper that the top 5 consulting companies haven't come to campus for recruitment. It means jobs are getting scarce, and there are jobs for those who know more. Right? So with that, I'll share a few more words before I kind of what it called. The topic is startup ecosystem in India and abroad. As you've seen, as a Thai charter member, we have chapters across the world, and from Mysuru, when we did what we call as Thai University, for all the colleges we hold competitions. Essentially all the engineering colleges come in and build teams, and they usually the hackathons that you see or the pitch fests that happen. And out of the 74 odd chapters we have across the world, Mysuru chapter won the first place for the Thai University competition. Right? There's one in Silicon Valley, there's one in Texas, there's one in Dubai, there's one in Singapore. So with all those things, still Mysuru won, because what was lacking probably over there was the drive. We had the drive to ensure we do the best and give the best to the community that we exist. So where it coming now is, do you have the drive to excel, right? So that drive is what is first required and not where you are as a geography today. And as I said, the technology that's coming in, you have same access to everything available as a technology as compared to somebody, another student or another entrepreneur sitting in some other cities. In fact, I would say you're all better off with probably, the principal or Dr. Seema, who are so innovating in terms of doing, innovative thinking, right? So if when you are in those kind of environment, you should kind of step in and not just see on the other side. One example could be, many of you would be exploring already in the final year, wanting to go abroad for studies. It would be anywhere between 40 to 60 lakhs, right, to go there study and probably get a job, and by the time you take care of that loan, you're done with probably half your life, right? The misnomer of risk in a startup is misunderstood. It's a misnomer and it's a wrong word, right? Even driving is risky, but don't we do it, right? So essentially, can you flip the mind? May not be alone, but if there is already some kind of funding available, can't you say that 2 years of my life I will give it to solving a problem, right? And with the funds I have, then there are ecosystems that will kind of help you and give you life to that. It isn't risky then, right? So just flip your mind, flip the switch and see how we can do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Pramod. So, when Pramod gave some dubious predictions in the beginning, and we will come back to that, right? I think it's important to talk about it. We'll do that again, right? Now, I'd invite Bhaskar to talk about specifically, what kind of environment he sees here. I mean, he came back to India a few years ago, and he's seen the environment in the Silicon Valley too, right? And one of the aspects that many founders talk about is the kind of stigma that you face on failure here, right? So I think it's a point that he can elaborate upon. Thanks.
As Professor said, before we understand ecosystem in India and abroad, first of all, I just want to share a few thoughts on basically what is a startup. Any activity is not a startup. A startup is something that you have to create a new value, new offering to the local or global markets. It is an innovative, creative, and passionate work. There is no. How many of you gone to a roller coaster in Gondola? All of you, right? You go there, you stand in the line, and you wait for your turn, and you go for the 60 seconds, 70 seconds. And middle of the time, you see where the hell I came here. You scream. And that roller coaster is well insured. All checks and balances there. There is no failure of zero failure almost. Even for that we go. In a startup, the journey is worst roller coaster you can ever imagine. There is no insurance, no guarantees. The success rate in startups is under 1%. If you are seeing one, successful startup coming up, a unicorn coming up, probably you would see thousands of them disappearing. So this is mortality rate in startups is very common. Why I'm bringing out all these things is, unless you have that tendency, and that is a part of your nature, don't get into the startups as a fashion statement. If you are starting a startup, you may get well settled. So there are a lot of myths also, like one of them said, you will get a freedom. You will not get freedom in a startup. It's a myth. I will work for myself. It is not. You have to work for the board and the market and the team and too many things. These are all myths that you will be working for yourself. It's not. In my experience, you will be working a lot harder, a lot smarter than any other regular jobs. But startup is all about, I feel, there are three important players. The entrepreneur, like most of you, who want to be there. He or she is the one who takes the maximum risk in the startup. As Pramod said, risk is one thing that I'll come back in a minute. Entrepreneur is the first one. Second important person is the key members of the startup. They take a lot of risk in joining a startup and doing something. And third important person is the investor. So I call these three innocent people or three idiots, whichever way you call it. These three people make a successful startup where entrepreneur takes the lead. Maximum risk that one can imagine. So I request all of you, think about that one as a passion, not as a lifestyle, not as a trend to be a part of a startup. It is a risky journey, very exciting journey, very rewarding journey, provided it's successful. So that is the nature of the startup. Either you are in US or India or Europe or anywhere, startup is a startup. And luckily, in information technology, when it became very prevalent last 15 years, these entrepreneurial skills that are there, or entrepreneur urges that are there in most of us, common people, middle class people, they came out. That's why you will see so many startups in IT technology, unlike other technologies. But nowadays, in the last 5 years, you see the startups in everywhere, in drones to agriculture to education to you name it, people are advancing it. But IT is, in my opinion, given the birth to startups for a common people like us. So you have an environment both in Bangalore or in India or in the US. It is there. It was there yesterday. It is here. It is going to be there tomorrow, in my belief. It's our and that urge to do startup is also in most of us, but we are trying to hibernate it. So my request, honest request, is talk to yourself. Let that urge come out, and you will see. As Pramod said, one of his student started a startup with 300 people. And I won't be surprised if you start a startup with 3,000 people in the future. It's possible, and many people have done it. Even our local, global entrepreneur, Narayan Murthy, also from a common family. You see the empire that they started. Today it's a big company, but it was started in the 80s. So my point here is, startup is not something there around us, and particularly in Bangalore. Every tea shop you go and meet somebody who is advanced into that. You can have a good mentoringship and investment also there. But here one caution that I would like to share is, unless you do your job, investors and key members don't join you. But we put the condition other way around. If your investment comes in, members comes in, then I will start. That's not the way. Here I would like to share one example. Most of us would have seen movies in English or India and movies. There is no single movie where if you are a hero, there is no heroine. Heroine is always there. Reward is always there, provided if you behave as a hero. You have to take that. Similarly, if you are a heroine, there is always a hero. Unlike you see any movie. But if you show me heroine, then I'll become a hero. There is no movie of that kind. So my point is, you have to take that plunge. You talk to yourself, jump in. There's no swimming on the ground. You have to get in the swimming pool. And there's an interesting quote here. Nobody died in the swimming pool or in the water, but for not knowing the swimming. You know, in the world, you can see the record. That nobody died in the water, in the swimming pool or in the pond or anything, because he or she did not know also swimming. My point here is, it's not that you have done startup before, or your family has done startup. That's not a pre-qualification. You can jump in and see it. I would even take Pramod's point that give 2 years, not 2 years. You have to give a long-term commitment.
So, I had other questions, but I think when she said agri and biotech, that put all my questions in the background. Agri and biotech, especially in India, are hard eggs to crack, right? And you have been in the US and you've been here, so I'm itching to know how you're planning to crack the egg. And maybe you can talk a little bit about what you see as the major difference, at least in these sectors, between the US and India.
Absolutely. I think I'm gonna slice my monologue into dialogue rather. Yeah. So, and a couple of points. The title says innovation. Well, I'm impressed to see. I wanted to acknowledge the dean who is innovation and entrepreneurship. Good to know you, man. Thank you for being here, holding this very important and emerging designation. That's amazing, and I'm honored because I was thinking about what I'm going to talk. I was just scribbling few notes. I went to US 20 years back by the inspiration of Dr. Norman Borlaug, who was father of Green Revolution. He was a professor emeritus there. I'll talk a little bit about, in the startup ecosystem, India versus abroad. There are 4 or 5 points I wanted to dissect. What is a startup? Okay, is this any better? Great. So, startup, what is the startup? I started my startup in 2007. The day I graduated with a PhD, so I have amazing journeys to share if time permits. maybe rapid fire question answer would do a lot that thing in case if you, because I can connect well, empathize, sympathize and connect well, and we would be having this era of startup buzz and reality we have to go through. One is the startup itself, the ecosystem, India and versus US, and the agree and about my learnings and well, I'm not a guy who's been there, done that, completed, but I'm in the path to scale up to transformation. Tech transformation is a key for Agri now. To tell you, every other person in India is an entrepreneur in Agri, because farmers I call, every farmer is an entrepreneur. But his scale of economies, unit economics, tech touch, profitability is missing. So that's been I've been thinking for the last 20 years, many stories. So how do you look at the startup? You are yourself a company, you are yourself a factory, you are yourself a CEO. Every one of us. In old economies, we were anchored by government. In new economies, we are going to be anchored by ourselves. Right? The opportunities are everywhere, but they are transcending to, next best possibilities. My question to all of you here is, how many of you want to be entrepreneurs? More specifically to connecting nice to. Can you raise your hand? How many of you want to be entrepreneurs for now or for soon or for later? Very few. Oh, the question is already out. The answer is no. Well, let me tell you, you have to think like an entrepreneur. Becoming an entrepreneur is part B. Thinking and being makes you a lot different. I want a little bit of attention here because when I went to BSc Agri, MSc Agri, in between, my entire college was funded by governments. So I had a little bit extra money to do startup. Okay. Thanks to US, they funded my entire PhD, gave me money so much so that I could buy a car even, being a student. Right, so, and I could start a startup. Otherwise, having money is key. Resources are key. If you get it on your own, that's wonderful. And startups should think like I've been telling my people, you should think like a dryland crop and that too millet. Not like a wetland paddy. All of you understand a little bit of agriculture? So that's what's our mindset or take when you go and see, startups are uncertainties high. Everything is unknown. Only thing, as previous speaker mentioned, your passion, your purpose, your commitment, everything starts from you and your early team. The ecosystem matters. Between India and US, what I have seen is in the last 20 years, India is also very dynamic. I went to Stanford. Why the Stanford? Why Stanford is Stanford? I camped there for a few days. I was in just before COVID, I went to US. Why Silicon Valley of US is Silicon Valley? What distinguishes from Indian Silicon Valley, Bangalore? And how I can position myself? I camped there for a week, visited Stanford, Google, Apple, Facebook, all the campuses I went, and we went with a notebook and dozens of questions. What is the culture here? What kind of people come? What kind of system, processes? One opening announced in Google, how many jobs applications comes in? Hundreds of thousands, right? Why not it is coming to my company? That was my question. Right? I wanted to share the ecosystem level difference between institution of Stanford and Indian colleges or universities is, Dean sir, Principal sir, and Dean madam. I was impressed and flabbergasted to see every student who comes will be given a space to register a company, and it is compulsory. They have given an address. Okay, that's like wow. So you are loaded with your entrepreneur, tech entrepreneur than the student. So you think like an entrepreneur because you have a registered company. Whether you do business or not do is part B. But having a company in your name gives you, wow, you are a CEO, not student. And I'm beneficiary of university anchored incubations. Initially 3-4 years until I became $1 million startup to scale up, I was 100% dependent on agri universities. Okay, that what I call anchored entrepreneurship has to be out there. Because we are not rich, students are not rich, they are unable to pay their next month or next year bills, right? And doing entrepreneurship, spending money, hiring people, putting in tech is not the option. But how do we anchor? I wrote this project with you at Agri University to World Bank, and they got 20 crore fund. IDP they call, Institutional Development Programs. There are external agencies to get that initial seed money or angel money, right? So that's one part of the difference between US and India is, one is something like Stanford, but there are many colleges even very, very difficult. So many of the lead colleges or universities, what you have seen in US is they give you that room to become an entrepreneur while being a student, number one. Number two, the risk capital much easily available in US. What do you call angels, VCs? If you have a working product, if you have some revenue, you pour money. I think in India it's also coming up in last 5 to 10 years, but long way to go. The other ecosystem is the industry, colleges collaborations. I was funded all through industries in my PhD because they used to sponsor a project for which we work and get paid, publish, and that has to come now in India. So there is a win-win, and also money available for research and exploration and exploitation of the technology opportunity, which could be translated as a business opportunity. I would jump into a little bit of agri. I was born, brought up in agri family, BSc agri, MSc agri, PhD agri, totally agri for sustainable agriculture and precision agri. From here I have a campus, 25 acres campus built for precision agri and global delivery center for agri. So what I'm bringing is, globally we have $5 to $10 trillion economy in agri-food ecology. I don't want to dispute or give a definitive number, it is ever changing because agri-food and ecology is that big. But people don't come there. Even I go to US, they don't invest. They only hooked up to virtual world through computer. That's okay. But the real world is plenty and in big. And India is number 2 in the world in agri, number 1 in number of farmers who are toiling. And unit economics and unit activities, efficiencies, tech touch is nowhere near. 10 years back I built an agri app platform. Today we have 3 million downloads and 100,000 active users. We are doing a MRR run rate of some $3 million every month. So we are taking this by heart. 10 years I waited, Dr. Arvind. The whole idea is the timing is luck. A lot of people blame it. And there are methodologies. I would suggest if anybody wants to become a lean startup guy or a startup guy, there are books, Lean Startup to Blitz Scaling to 20 years back, this Dell guy has written operations. There are plenty of knowledge available. So I would request you to apply. But coming back to again, agri is a happening space. Agri-tech is here. And precision agriculture is a destination. Just I was reading, there is one precision agri company raised $12 million today only. Fasal, I think, yeah. And there are 1 dozen companies which have got invested. And another part of the startup leading to industrial application in India is we are in silos, apparently. Agri doesn't talk to IT, IT doesn't talk to mechanical, mechanical doesn't talk to AI, ML, right? We have to now bring these kind of events and have sandboxes, have this startup clubs, hubs, anchored entrepreneurship. Somewhere something I think I request Dr. Seema Singh to create those, experiential opportunities and anchored opportunities.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Dr. Virendra. I will go back to Pramod now, right?
My question to everyone. Since you all have a very good experience in this field, I have one project incubated in Comet Cares. So I wanted to know what would be my next, like your suggestions to go for the next, if I want to make it into a big product. Like currently we're working it on Tier 2, we want to bring it to Tier 5. So we're looking for government funds, but those funds actually come very late. So we wanted your suggestions from where we could source funds for that. As Basu sir was talking about incubated projects and how students can further...
I think everyone here can talk about it, but I'll just ask Pramod please.
Customers. The whole point of what you're doing or what you're building should be for a customer and a customer willing to pay. If you've not started something that you can't sell, I would say, take a look, go back to the drawing board, look at, is it something that a customer has a problem? and can I solve this problem for him by reducing his time, reducing his cost, reducing his manpower, right? If a customer is not willing, then everything that the funding, the mentoring, everything gets into a loop. You'll keep looking at pitch decks, you'll keep pitching, you'll keep going from one fund to another fund, and you'll come back to the drawing board again. Ensure that go to a customer, a prospective customer, talk to him and tell him this is what I have. Are you ready to buy this or ready to pay for it? If he says no, I don't want this, go back and pick up another product. Very practical.
I think we may not be able to answer your big question in this thing. My 2 cents is that you should figure out what you would like to do next. What we call MVP, minimum viable product. Then either you have to figure out, are there any paying customers for this so that you can get some money? Or if it is a high tech, get a mentor. If it is a complex, it is, it needs a lot of complexities or both the tech side and customer side. So you can have a mentor. If it is an easygoing me-too product, go and sell and make money. Bring money. And then you figure out CapEx, OpEx, those parts. For that, I think the funds are available today. But you have to tell, okay, here is my product, it's the product of computation or offerings, and then revenues, and then figure out through a mentor what is a good way to plan the iterative phases where you have a customer touch point, product, or your value proposition. You do a good, what I call business model canvassing. If you do that, next iteration, what is that you want to focus? 1 or 2 things only. Is that the focus, build on the product, more evolved, or go back to the market and test the product, test the revenue, and come back? These are the 2 things. If I were you, I would do.
Basically, our product focuses more on the B2B. We built the product, and right now we're looking for customers who. It's basically like we tested the product, and we want to. We want people where we can completely fabricate it properly. Like, how do we approach companies or like industries that will build our product? If we want to fabricate something, or like currently it's like we have the whole prototype and we have like the whole proof of concept, and we've come to that part, and we're sourcing for they're looking for the patent search. So it's in the process. So how is it for the B2B business model? I want to know more about it.
See, B2B is more organized, more definitive. That is where you need to figure out what are their pain points, what is your offering, or what is your exciting feature. You have to bucket it. If you are solving, they would come to you rather than you going to them. If it is exciting, they will watch you. Is it really exciting, or it is only namesake exciting? It is a replacement, then what is the value proposition? Under 3 different headings, you have a value proposition. Take some mentors, academic mentors, industry mentors, spend 1 hour, and then shortlist top 10 B2B potential customers. Yes. Don't take appointment, barge in and give them money. That's what I would think.
I would add a couple of points. Since you are talking about B2B, it's a different ballgame. B2C is another one. Consumer, if you are going into that, consumers won't pay. So as Pramod said, your best bet is going to the potential customers. But it's not easy. The other source is the 3 F's, the friends, family, and fools. I mean, fools means they are innovative fools. They take the risk of investing. And those are the things, because you are talking seed level funding. But in addition to these 2, I would ask one question: what is your gut feeling about your product?
Sir, it's basically.
No. So are you committed, and are you sure that it's going to make it happen, make the change of what?
Yes.
Change the world change?
Yes.
Then you should be the first investor in that. You put all your sweat and everything. That will be the showcasing for investors. Fools also will follow you. Friends, all peers will follow. Your customers will follow you. If you stop working your activity and go to customers and other, you will get disappointment rather than any encouragement. You have to keep that in mind. Customers, and because B2B. If it's B2C, then nothing. The only customers, the consumers will may tell you whether you are a smart guy or a fool up with your idea. But if it's a B2B, that's the best way. But if you're, there's another caution that I will give is, in the startups, all of us have made that mistake, whether it's US, India, and overseas, is that we try to bite more than what we can chew. So you're talking about the idea, fabrication, and as a startup, you cannot go to fabrication. That is the failure of in the fabrication is so high, and the investments are so high. So you have to come out with a different way of simulation model rather than fabricating model. You simulate it and take it to your first customers and first investors, then you will see some light at the end of the tunnel. That's what. And bottom line is, none of us know the roadmap to your problem. And I'm honest with you. And you will find it, but that's the journey. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Many of you have learned programming, right? Or all of you? Those who haven't learned programming, can you raise your hands? Some programming? You haven't learned. Everybody have learned, right? You haven't learned programming. Nothing. Not in first year, first sem? Yeah, that's programming. That's enough, right? Now, one to the students and then to the academicians and the academic administrators. Right? All of you have heard Figma, 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 right? Yes or no? You do some design, right? Export that Figma to something called Flutterflow, right? And then to Lokify.ai, right? Just some testing, and you build your own IT or a product, right? How much money does it take to do this? It's all free, but it's all the mind game, right? So essentially, if you have to do or if you want to do, you can do. Point is without risk, without really spending any money. But then, where do you start? What is the problem statement you're going to solve? And at times, what you also have to look at is, many do not know that they have this problem. Right? You build, go take. Now, I'll give a case study of this. Just think about all the big paint companies today are having paint as a service, right? They send, you can go ask for painting from them, and then they'll send people, assess and send you the quote, right? If you can build with what I spoke about, 3 services, today you go and give them a camera app, which assesses, they take the photos, identify the cracks, because crack filling is also a service that they charge for, right? Take this app that you built, or whatever you want to call it, and tell them, go and give it to them and say, look, here is something I built where, give it to your sales guy, let him take a photos, it will assess the cracks for you and give you a quote of what the quote is, right? You haven't really looked at those codes, right? With some more coding and some more knowledge of coding and some database elements, you have built this app which the industry wants. Right? These are the ways you can start looking at. Now, the biggest challenge is we have some of the brightest minds in colleges. That's don't get me wrong, but doing clerical work. Right? The faculty who've done PhDs and MTechs are being asked to fill forms, right? And they can really help you with their research. They can really push the boundaries for you. They can really fill the gaps for you, but time isn't available for them because there is so much of paperwork that needs to be caught up. Probably as an academic leader, sir, I would request, can you bring in a layer of academic assistants who can take care of this paperwork and allow faculty to do the cutting edge work that is required for them to bridge what the industry wants with the students. But that adds a lot of value to the whole academic and learning ecosystem. Right? So what's required is, I'm humbly looking at a lot of talent here, can't see. Right? So essentially, the academic leadership has to take this step.
But I would have to remind you that different institutions differ.
It's generic.
Yes, the use of technology to a very great extent to reduce that pressure.
No, it's generic because my interaction has been with a lot of institutions, these days because of a product we've developed, and it's 30% minimum of the academician's work that goes into kind of paperwork. So all institutions have to look at it because that's the difference we're looking at. How does the academic institution bridge? What are we saying? Industry is saying today, look, I will do my training, I will do my selection. Google, Meta, all these companies do not even want any academic qualification. What they're saying is, I want them to clear my 7 levels of tests to hire. Right? So, I mean, in that scenario, I have to be relevant. So essentially, what I have to look at is, how can I kind of be more relevant to the industry? Right? So there is definite path to bridge that. It can be done. Industry, CII, FICCI, all of them have industry institution interaction cells, right? Where these kind of scenarios happen, and some of them are in an arrangement to see if faculty can go into industry and industry can send in their thing. That's the thought process. Some of the CII but I don't know when it will cook and when it will happen. But
All
that's a
those
thought.
things are happening right now. All my faculty members will do industry internship for the last 6 years.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Now people can plan.
Yes. So, college is wonderful opportunities available for all, but ensure that you kind of look forward and work on it.
So my question is about this. Sir, you have worked in foreign as well as India. So what are the risk factors you have faced there, and how do you solve and comfort with your?
One thing, risk doesn't have any religion. Risk in US or here, anywhere is the same. I'm glad that you asked about risk. Risk is one favorite topic in startups. You have to fall in love with risk. And that's one aspect. The second thing is the failure. We are all having fear of failure. In normal day-to-day activities, and professor gives assignment, whether we want to do it or not. Starting with simple, this one, and failure of law, first law failure. So many things are there, right? Without common law. And failure with the startup is even more high. So we have to fall in love with the failure and the risk. I think the journey will be, you will start enjoying the roller coaster. And when it comes risk, there, I think every environment has its own risk. In US, investment risk is much lesser. Here, much higher. But here, the talent availability is much higher. If you can really, if you are passionate about your idea, you can share with us some of your friends. There are many people who volunteer to join you and then really pursue you, which is not that easy in the US. There are more fence sitters in the US than in India. So we have a lot of advantage, and more importantly, we are fortunate to have a strong family support for whatever we do. So first thing you have to do before you venture into startup, you have to take your family. Because the journey is not easy. They have to be, if you are married or you just have parent or sibling, you have to take them confidence that you are taking the journey of your own. And then with all these things, you will be able to mitigate your risk to great extent. And the government is doing a lot of things in India, starting with incubation centers and innovation centers and the government funding. These are all there, but it's not easy yet. In my experience, it's not easy for entrepreneur, particularly budding entrepreneur, to go and seek those things. But good thing is they are all there now. If you take 15 years ago, none of them are there. And mentorship is other one. There are abundance of mentorship. There are institutions like the BMS and Ranayas and other things. And we are external, a lot of experience entrepreneurs. So we are in a best environment, if I say best time, to venture into startups and enjoy them, I would say. But bottom line is, you have to take the risk. There is no second thoughts of it, as my experience is.
About risk, somebody in a startup event said, all men are ready to do startups because they already taken one risk if they are married.
Okay.
Because they say there is no age to start. You all have started maybe at after 30, 40, 50, however. So what was the point to start? You had your own successful career. So how would you start? When do you start? How it happens?
I did not know what was a startup then. Right? 2000 startup. 2005, bunch of my friends in college said, let's do a company. Yeah, I said, okay, cool, sounds good, cool, college dropout, doing a startup. Then I said, I backed off. The reason was, I did not want back home in India. This guy failed and started some company, right? So I waited and the day I graduated, I started. The purpose was, again, as I mentioned, you need to have some level of clarity, not all. So you are in, it's a spirit, it's a purpose. I mean, it's something you launch for it. There is no clearly defined, are you doing it for money, fame, success? There are a combination of factors you will change. So you achieve that clarity. If you want to be becoming an entrepreneur, that is a decision. To de-risk my decision, I started but no money, right? But I said, okay, let me figure out. Then I worked for a year and then I said, okay, I am now gonna really jump in. But where? In US, I'm sharing my journey if that's okay. Yeah, that I can highlight. Yeah, I can highlight 1 or 2 points in every decision I took so that becomes structure. Right, so I said, I'm gonna work for some time. It was not even in a year. Then I said, I'm gonna fully jump in. Where? Because US economy was down, the financial, the problems were plenty in 2007-8. But I'm going to come back to Bangalore. People have started laughing. This guy PhD is going to not stay here for more than 6 months, 1 year, he's going to go back. I de-risked myself. I started my second company. Right, so then I felt I need to do now. I ran out of money, I was totally out. No money. I borrowed money, took loan and everything. The journey is interesting, I double 10 times dedicated myself to what needs to be done in terms of doing what needs to do in business. Develop product, sell, manufacture and sell. Only 2 or 3 points. I could able to crack next couple of years because I had this disturbing subject, designation, academic qualification called PhD. We PhDs tend to be more deep, dive in, research, preach. I unloaded myself. Thank you, they removed my doctor also. So. Okay, whatever you do, you have a de-risking. If it is a much of risk, you cannot bounce back. These are the things you need to start, as a faculty, you can give them the examples, models, learnings, and testing and becoming somebody. And I'm excited about incubations becoming your experimental grounds for doing something, and then collaborate with the industry and go and learn and become, run your own story, startup, whatever it is. I don't know how it's gonna, but let's have the formal working relationship with those industries which are, you have Microsoft startups, you have Amazon startups, you have plenty of startups coming in and they play about, this thing. But as entrepreneurs, let me tell you, it's about you and your commitment, your dedication, and your distinction. How do you distinguish your product, your service, your technology, your commitment to your customers, quality, value proposition, whatever you call that. Those are the few things you need to figure out. Deeply, personally, not by sympathizing or empathizing, but going beyond, few of the metrics which you start seeing as soon as you hit certain scale. So you need to go beyond. You need to say, predict. Now, if you guys are tech, you need to be doing a couple of years ahead from now. Otherwise, you will be, no case at all.
Sir, as a agricultural background guy, as your company, as you are supporting the normal farmer who is from a remote side of a village, having only 2 acres, 2.5 acres, with only 1 inch of a water, over will be there. is your company will help such a farmers as a customer, probably to reach them. Means they will be there as a part in your company like that.
Very good question. You know, there is something beautiful steps in business called segmentation and grading. Okay, I started this as my extension project in 2014 in GKVK here. AgriApp was born in GKVK as my experiment. I launched an app because I thought farmers need information. That's the objective. I started giving, pull a bunch of engineers and told them, hey, let's do this. And I started giving them, I need this, I need this, I need this. They started putting together, took a vendor and started with, then I said, I did not expect anything from farmers. I wanted them to consume my information, like probably Google is for search, right? I said, at one point, as long as my customers are coming back and looking up something, I have some relationship. Then how do you convert that is a phase which I am figuring it out currently. As I said, I am already doing $2 to $3 million per month MRR. So, coming to your specific question, it applies to all of you. Who are your customers? You have to do the customer segmentation. I have a horticulture crop, I have a dryland farmers, I have paddy farmers, I have cash crops, I have annual crops, I have 30 days crop. You need to know in and out of your customer target audience or customer segment. That's number one. You can be generic. I am generic. Anybody can download my app for free. Anybody can consume and check out with my crop advisors for free. But to buy and me supply, support, we are in Agri, we are in Bharat, not in India. So what we do, last month we completed supply chain of including any farmer pan India, wherever some 15,000 pin codes we have delivered close to 80,000+ deliveries. This is nothing but a copy of Amazon, nothing much. But what distinguishes us to the small farmer is a technical information, question answer, agronomy, and then precision agriculture, which I am stitching as a next piece. So, agri-tech is more complex, agriculture is real complex. So, we are putting together those pieces and focused on complete value chain for sugarcane.
Any last minute questions, burning questions? Otherwise, the panelists are available. I think you can get our contacts and reach out to them because unless there are any last minute burning questions, we can. Yeah, maybe,
I don't mind spending before I go.
Yeah, I would request each of the panelists to just answer questions. Right? What in your mind the startup should not be doing? And the second question is, okay, the ecosystem, what is your perception about more people opting for jobs than startups? Why should they do startups?
You should not do if you don't believe. You should not do just for being the name and fame. You should do with purpose, plan, whatever you aspire, you visualize. And do with clarity, do with risk, de-risk matrix, do with alternatives, options available for you, A, B, C, and up to the word C. So that's what's do and to do. And so the question is, should not be doing, I think I just mentioned. So yeah, you should. Okay, the ecosystem should, again, you are at college level, read and dream big. And try doing in your incubation center, go and catch up, collaborate, learn, do all this, and ecosystem, you start networking. LinkedIn is a great place. And ask here any connected industry leaders for internship opportunities. Go and expose yourself, explore yourself, excite yourself, and come up with what you believe as a distinguished offering, whether it is a product, service, technology, or a transformative story, even if you would like to sell. I think that's all from my side.
One thing is, as a budding startup entrepreneurs, we should not know or we should not attempt to know the formula for success. If you get to know about all the things you have to do to be successful, you will not start a startup. It is so risky. Many of them said starting a startup, getting investment, customers, and then sustaining, scaling, establishment. These are big, big words. By not knowing it, you will be better off in the early stage. If you know about all those things, it demotivates you rather than motivating you. That's my experience. And as you will climb the hills, once you climb the first peak, you will see some more peaks to climb. That is your journey, you will learn it. All of us have been learning that way. So don't try to attempt to know everything about the success formula for a startup and then venture into it. That's one thing I would want to do as a thing. And the second point on the same thing, don't bite more than you can chew. This is one of the lessons that I learned in my first startup. You know, when you buy a burger, it's bigger than your mouth, and everybody buys it, and the whole mouth gets it. And you know that. That's called biting, and then in the process you get soaked. And that's what most of the startups do. We try to do end-to-end of the supply chain. You have idea and product and the manufacturing and the distribution. If you do all of them, you will not be a startup guy. So you figure out what is that we should do and what we should outsource it or collaborate it or simulate it. Or you say that this is what I will do, is an opportunity for somebody else. Why should I take everything is an opportunity for me? So this is a very delicate thing. Many times when we start startup, I can do that also. I want to get that profit also. In the process, you do the principal. So that's a fundamental problem that we all go through that. It's very tempting. If I don't do that, I will not be able to satisfy my customer, hence I have to do it. In the process, you are not going to satisfy yourself, not the customer, or the market. So we have to know what is that minimum thing that we do and show off your value. And once that value is visible, believe me, investor, your members and family, everybody will fall in line with you. And that's where you have to have the patience and perseverance and delayed gratification. That's also very important. There are a lot of temptations around you, right? Not only the products and the other opportunities and girlfriends, boyfriends. So all these are distractions, and it is not easy. And you are in a most tempting world, vulnerable environment, tempting environment. So you have to chase all of them and then move forward. That's what I would do. Just focus on what is this idea, if your idea, and then get to the level where you can prove it. That's all. Then you will get to know what the remaining part of it. That's what I would do.
As I was part of an organization called Sobis, we were the partners for AICT. I was the guy who kind of sifted about 1,200 business plans to shortlist into 600 and then to 400 and then to 200 with the team. Right? And then I went to Delhi and we met the 87 finalists there, and a panel of us, and then they were recognized, the first competition, things happened. Now if you assume, I'm coming to the point that if you assume that the person who's sitting on the other side knew so much, 1,200 business plan could be sorted, sifted, and kind of done, right? Of course, there was not just me, there were a panel of 5 people, 5 was sifted through this, right? So the first thing, do not assume when you have an idea or a plan in mind that the other person on the other side knows, and if he or she has said no, it will not work, don't go back and say, okay, it will not work. No. Did we need a service like Amazon or Flipkart when they started? No. We got our stuff from the shops around and we went and bought books. But today, right? So when you start, do not think that the person's on the other side, which is why you should go to multiple set of people, but still believe in yourself and go build that up. And it takes a lot of conviction. Only if you have conviction, step out. Conviction about yourself, conviction about what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. Right? So, the point is, do not think that people on the other side are listening to you, know, and what they say would work, not work. You have to try it out. One. And second one.
I was asking, what do you think is conducive in the ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a wonderful ecosystem. Today, from the government of India to state government to institutions, everybody have here to just extend an hand and to help you build. Since the past 4 days, I was part of a jury of Smart India Hackathon. Teams from across the country had come to Mysore. Wonderful energy. And out of the 4 or 6 teams who had come to Mysore for one problem statement from the Ministry of Defence, out of those 4 or 6 teams, they would get, one of the team would get 1 lakh. And for them to come to Mysore or for them to come to compete, they got that 20,000 as sponsorship. So essentially, you got a lot of stuff out there that you can do. The point is, the only thing that could stop you from doing is the screen you have in front of you, your minds. Right? Try it out. When your students in 3rd, 4th year, try out all these things. Try out, bring a team of interdisciplinary students, make yourselves team. Spend the same time that you would still spend in a cafe, right? But spend it on trying to solve something, trying to build a problem, build a solution. Spend the time of friendship, but then try to do it in an advantageous way to each other, helping out each other. Right?
Ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for is here. The prize distribution ceremony. We have winners who have demonstrated excellence in various fields, and it's time to celebrate their achievements.